In an age where financial surveillance is becoming routine, Monero stands out as a powerful shield protecting political privacy and anonymity. But what is Monero? Unlike Bitcoin and most other cryptocurrencies, which leave transactions publicly traceable, Monero offers robust privacy by design, empowering individuals to support political causes without fear of exposure or retaliation. Today we're exploring why Monero matters not just as digital money, but as a critical tool for safeguarding personal freedoms and fostering genuine political expression in an increasingly monitored world. As it turns out, Monero fits nicely into America's tradition of protecting dissident and controversial speech from the powers that be. Monero is often compared to Bitcoin, but under the hood, it works very differently. Every Monero transaction automatically hides the sender, receiver, and amount. It's built into the code. By contrast, Bitcoin transactions are recorded on a public ledger that anyone can inspect. At first glance, Bitcoin seems anonymous. Wallet addresses aren't tied to real names. But every payment detail is public and permanent. Over time, those details can give up clues that can be used to pinpoint people's identities, especially with today's blockchain analysis tools. Monero avoids this by design. It uses cryptographic tricks like ring signatures and stealth addresses to mix up transaction data, making it virtually impossible to trace who paid whom. Free expression isn't just about spoken or written words. It's also about supporting causes and associating with others, which often involves money. The First Amendment doesn't explicitly mention money, but courts have acknowledged that donating to political or social causes is a form of expression and association. Just as the Supreme Court protected the NAACP's right to keep its membership list private in the 1950s to shield supporters from harassment, the principle extends to modern tools. People should be able to donate or spend money on advocacy without immediately revealing their identity. Privacy coins like Monero enable a kind of anonymous digital association, letting supporters contribute to movements or share resources in a way that's harder for governments or vigilantes to track. This is crucial in situations where revealing one's identity could lead to persecution. Real-world events show why privacy-focused currency can bolster free speech and dissent. During the pro-democracy demonstrations in Hong Kong in 2019, activists went to great lengths to remain anonymous, wearing masks, using prepaid transit cards, and avoiding traceable payments. In fact, Hong Kong protesters were tracked via their transit card purchases in some cases. A cryptocurrency like Monero could have allowed them to buy supplies or support each other without leaving a digital trail, thwarting attempts to identify and punish participants. In Russia, opposition leader Alexei Navalny and his organizations were declared extremist, making it illegal to donate to them. Banks were transparent to the state, so supporters turned to cryptocurrency to keep donations alive. They used Bitcoin, which helped for a time since authorities couldn't easily censor it. But Bitcoin's public ledger still poses a risk. Monero's untraceable design would go even further, protecting Russian activists and donors from being exposed. Authoritarian governments know that controlling financial flows means controlling dissent. That's why they're often the first to crack down on this sort of financial privacy. In a modern democracy, we saw a striking example of financial surveillance. During the trucker protests in Canada in 2022, authorities froze bank accounts of participants and even blacklisted certain crypto wallet addresses. Dozens of Bitcoin and Ethereum addresses were flagged, making it hard for protest organizers to access donated funds. Monero could have changed the game here. If donors had used Monero, their contributions would be far more difficult to trace to their real identities, reducing the chance of government or third-party retaliation. This isn't just hypothetical. Even WikiLeaks, when hit by a banking blockade over a decade ago, relied on cryptocurrency for funding, since traditional payments were cut off. These scenarios underscore a common theme. Financial privacy underpins political freedom. When people can be identified and punished for their support, free speech and democracy suffer. By contrast, when dissidents, whistleblowers, or everyday citizens can speak with their money anonymously, It empowers a freer exchange of ideas and support. The idea of anonymous expression is deeply ingrained in America free speech law. We've covered this in part before and discussed McIntyre, the Ohio Elections Commission from 1995. In eloquent terms, the McIntyre court declared that anonymity is a shield from the tyranny of the majority. It safeguards individuals with unpopular views from retaliation and suppression. This protection wasn't new. The court cited examples like Talley v. California from 1960, which voided a ban on unsigned leaflets, and even harked back to the Federalist Papers, noting that anonymity in political debate has a venerable history. Likewise, NAACP v. Alabama from 1958 showed how anonymity is tied to freedom of association. Alabama wanted the NAACP's membership list to harass and intimidate its supporters. The Supreme Court unanimously said no, ruling that forcing disclosure of members' identities would effectively silence and deter lawful private association. The court noted that revealing those names would likely subject members to retaliation, chilling their rights. Because of that decision, any peaceful political organization with a sensitive or unpopular mission can promise meaningful confidentiality and anonymity to its members. In other words, privacy in one's association is part and parcel of the First Amendment. Today, Monero can be seen as the digital analog of an unmarked pamphlet or an anonymous donation jar. It's a way to exercise free speech through spending and donating as forms of expression while wearing a protective mask of privacy. Now, it's important to be clear-eyed. Any powerful privacy tool can be abused. Monero's critics often highlight that it has been used by criminals, from darknet markets to ransomware schemes. Indeed, as of a few years ago, 3 of the biggest 5 darknet markets accepted Monero for illicit trade, though Bitcoin remained more common. Cyber criminals have demanded Monero in kidnappings and hacked computers to mine it. These are real concerns. Law enforcement worries that untraceable money could embolden bad actors. But here's the other side of the coin, so to speak. Powerful tools can be used for good or ill. The tool itself is neutral. As one Monero core developer, Francisco Cabanas, told Reuters, it doesn't selectively encourage crime, it encourages commerce. In that respect, it's no different than cash. Cash can facilitate crimes too, yet we don't outlaw cash because of its potential illicit uses. Why? Because cash also enables private, legitimate transactions, tipping someone without fanfare, buying controversial literature without scrutiny, or donating to a church or cause anonymously. Monero plays a similar role online. It provides privacy by default, which can shield ordinary people and activists, not just criminals. In fact, privacy technology tools have pro-social uses. Journalists can pay sources without exposing them, NGOs can fund operations in hostile regions, and everyday citizens can avoid invasive corporate surveillance of their spending habits. Crypto and privacy advocates are steadfast that encrypting transactions in this way has legitimate uses. Anonymous donations to a sensitive political cause, for instance. The challenge for society is to crack down on the crimes without destroying a critical freedom. It's a delicate balance, akin to how we handle encrypted communication. We don't ban encryption technology wholesale. We target the criminals themselves. A similar approach can apply to Monero. Recognize it as a tool that empowers freedom and address abuses with narrow, specific tactics. The First Amendment has proven remarkably adaptable over time. Courts have extended free speech protections to new technologies, from radio and the internet to source code. As we forge deeper into the digital age, we must ensure our rights keep pace with our technologies. Financial privacy tools like Monero are essentially the next chapter in anonymous speech and association. They enable what we might call financial speech or economic expression, the ability to support causes and express oneself through spending, free from surveillance. We should start celebrating Monero's positive potential the way we do other free speech tools. Think of Monero as a modern equivalent of those anonymous pamphlets that founding fathers like Hamilton used. It's a technology that can protect dissent. By allowing people to transact and organize outside of the panopticon of state or corporate surveillance, Monero can help keep the flame of dissent alive in places where it might otherwise be smothered. This isn't to naively idolize Monero. Rather, it's to recognize that if we value the ideals of the First Amendment, we must extend those ideals to new forms of expression and association. Monero presents a compelling, if challenging, case of technology intersecting with liberty. It embodies First Amendment values, the right to speak, to publish, to associate without undue fear. It provides a way for whistleblowers to receive support, for a protest movement to sustain itself, for an ordinary person to donate to an unpopular cause, all without immediately inviting scrutiny or punishment. In a time when digital surveillance is ever growing, such privacy is worth celebrating. At the same time, Monero's not a panacea. Like all powerful tools, it can be misused. But banning or stigmatizing privacy technology outright would be like burning the printing press because it can print seditious material. Monero might well be today's equivalent of the Federalist Papers in the realm of finance, a way to protect dissent by protecting the channels through which dissenters fund and express themselves. It's a concept that judges, lawmakers, and the public need to grapple with more. The takeaway is this: financial privacy is not about hiding crime, it's about safeguarding freedom. By ensuring the First Amendment evolves to cover our new digital arenas, we uphold the spirit that has always driven it, the conviction that powerful, even radical ideas deserve a voice. And sometimes that voice must be allowed to speak from behind a veil for its own safety. Monero gives us a tool to hold that veil in the financial realm, and with thoughtful stewardship, it can be a tool for liberty as much as for any wrongdoing. It's up to us as citizens and courts to make sure the balance tips in favor of freedom. I'm Benjamin Barr. I'm delighted that you are with us today. My job as a constitutional litigator is to give you the tools necessary to solve today's constitutional puzzles. I hope you'll take a minute to like and subscribe. It really helps with this educational project. And we'll see you next week as we tackle yet another constitutional controversy.